Hello everyone. Today let's design the splitwise expense sharing system. So previously we have already solved the two design problems. Basically, one is parking lot and another one was online bookstore. Right. So these two problems we have already solved. Basically, here you can clearly see these two files I'm speaking of. Sorry, just give me a second here. These two files I'm speaking of, online bookstore as well as the parking lot. We have already solved that one. Today let's solve the third one. Let's see what the question states here. We have been asked to design a splitwise like expense sharing system where they have given certain conditions here or the subparts here, right? We can call that requirements as well. User can add expenses involving the multiple users. So they have clearly mentioned here, users can add expenses involving multiple users. This is fine. Let's come to the second part here. This one, the system should track who owns how much to share. So the system must track who owns how much to this one, how much to whom, right? So this is very important step. This we have to include at any cost, right? So this one, third one, it must support different expenses types. Means we have the different expenses type. One is equal, one is exact, and another one is this one, extendable, right? Nothing but the percent here in this case, right? So here in this case we have three different expense types. One is equal, exact, and percent, right? Extendable to percent as well they have given here, right? So this is the third one. So let's see the fourth part here. It must allow users to view balances with others. So we must allow users to view the balances with others as well. So that's what they have mentioned in the question, right? So this is simple. This one is simple splitwise like expense sharing system. This is not the complex one. Just remember this. The main question here is we have to design a splitwise like expense sharing system where users can add expenses involving multiple users. It should we have to involve multiple users as well. The system should track who owes how much to whom. This one as well. The third one is must support different expenses types. One is equal, exact, and extendable to percent as well. Three things, and must allow users to view the balances with others. I hope the question is completely clear, right? Simple to understand. So first, let's discuss the UML diagram, right? Let's discuss the UML diagram first. Let's see what are all the core classes that we'll be using in the code. Let's discuss the UML diagram first. Then what we will do, we'll see whether we'll be making use of any enums and types. Let's see that one as well, right? So then we will be writing the code, and after writing the code we will be discussing about the complexities for the code that we have written and also the design principles and the future scope. Let's discuss the UML diagram. So just keep this in mind. We will be going with the 6 core classes mainly, right? So here, this one, when I'm speaking of the 6 core classes, I'm speaking of these classes, right? User, expense, split, balance sheet, expense service, as well as splitwise expense sharing. So these are the 6 core classes we'll be making use of, right? So within the user, what we are doing here, we are having the we are considering basically user ID as well as the username. We need particular name. We need name of the user as well as the particular ID associated with the user, right? So here in this case, ID will be of the type string and name will be of the type string as well. I hope this is clear. Simple. We will see this one when we write the code. Just we will articulate the exact same thing in the form of code, right? This one, the same thing, whatever the diagram we have written here, UML diagram, whatever we are seeing here, high level overview of the splitwise sharing system here, in this case expense sharing system, same thing, exact same thing will be articulating in the form of code. Basically just try to understand this one, right? So here the ID will be of the type string and name will be of the type string as well. Let's come to the expense class here, the second among the core classes. This is the first one. This was the first one, user. The second one is expense. So we have within the expense we have paid by means particular user, the amount paid by the particular user, right? So this will be paid by, we have an amount will be of the type double, right? Paid by will be of the type user itself, right? So this one, user. So and we also have the splits, right? We are designing basically splitwise expense sharing system itself. So we are having the splits as well, which is of the type list of split within the angle brackets, right? So this is fine. And the final one here is expense type. We should be having the expense type as well. So while during the question, while explaining the or while discussing the question, we had three types, right? They have asked us to go with the three types. One was exact, basically. Other two I forgot. Just give me a second. Yeah, equal, exact, and percent, right? So we should be having the expense type as well here in this case. So I hope this is clear. Let's go with the next core class here, split in this class, right? Third one, split. We should be having the user. If we should split, basically we are splitting the amount among the user, right? It should contain the user, which is of the type user itself, and amount as well. We are splitting based on the amount itself, based on the between the users based on the amount, right? So amount will be of the type double, basically here in this case. User will be of the type user itself, and amount will be of the type double. Just keep this in mind. So here, let's come to the balance sheet here. In this case, balance sheet will be making use of the map. We will be making use of the map of user and map of user comma double. Just keep this in mind. This is very important, basically, balance sheet. Let's go with the fifth core class here in this case. Fifth class, expense service. When I say expense service, we have to provide these services. One is balance sheet, one is add expense. We should be able to add the expense. We should be able to show the balance as well, and it should contain the balance sheet as well, right? So we should be able to add the expense, we should be able to show the balance, and it should contain the balance sheet which is of the type balance sheet, basically. These things we have to keep in mind. And then let's come to the final this one class here, splitwise expense sharing. When I say splitwise expense sharing, this is main string. So this is the main function, right? Splitwise expense sharing, this is the main function. This indicates main here. Main is nothing but this is main function, right? I mean, this is main class, basically, right? Within what we get the output, basically we will be including the users, multiple users, and then we will be checking this one expense, splitwise expense, right? Accordingly with the question, we'll be checking for the output further. So this is main class. Just keep this in mind. Splitwise expense sharing class, basically, right? So this is about the high level overview of the splitwise expense sharing system, basically UML diagram, right? So I hope this is completely clear. Let's move on with the enum and types. So enums and types. So here we have the enum, this one expense type here. You can clearly see we have the enum expense type here, which consists of the three types, basically equal, exact, and percent. We have already discussed this one, right? So within the enums and types, we have included basically enum expense type, which consists of equal, exact, and percent. What are these three things? Basically, these are the expenses types. Equal, exact, as well as the percent are the expenses types, right? We have already discussed this one on the question, right? Next, what we will do, let's write the code. Now we have the idea. We have already discussed the UML diagram. We have discussed all the core classes, and we have discussed the types within that, right? So which will be of the type data types as well, right? Which contains what. So we have already discussed this one clearly, high level overview. We have the idea now. So let's start writing the code. After writing the code, let's discuss the complexities for the code, future scope as well as the design principles, right? So these things we'll be doing. First, let's start writing the code. So here first we'll do we need to import the utility classes, whether it may be map, list, hash map, etc. We need the utility classes, right? So I'll just go with here import java util start. So this is fine. So the next step here is let's go with the main public class as per the requirement. Main public class was basically we have discussed, this is splitwise expense sharing. This one I'm speaking of, already we have named this one splitwise expense sharing, right? So let me copy the same thing, or let me type here. This is fine. Public. So I'll just give here. What did I give here? Just give me a second. This has to be public. This is fine. This has to be class here. Yeah, this is fine. This took automatically, right? This is fine. So within this one, we have already discussed, we will be making use of the enum expense type. So which consists of expense to be split equally, expense with exact amounts, and expense with the percentages. So basically I'll just go with here. When I write, you will get to know static enum. So I'll just be going with the expense type here. This is fine. So within the enum expense type, we have already discussed this one. We will be going with the equal, exact, as well as the third one is percent. Right? These three things. Equal is nothing but that is expense to be split equally among the people, and exact is nothing but the expense with the exact amounts, and the third one, percent, is nothing but expense with the percentages. This is the percent. The third one is just for the future use, right? So these three things will be going with mainly. So let's go with the next one. So first, next class we'll be making use of here as user, right? So class to represent a user. Basically I'll just go with static class. So here on this case, let me name this one, name the class user here. So within the user class, we need unique identifier. So we have already discussed this one. We will be going with the ID as well as the name. So ID will be of the type string here on this case. So ID, oh, just give me a second here. So and name is of the type string, right? So I'll just go with here string name. So this is fine. Let me come out of this one entirely. So here we will be making use of the constructor to initialize the user object. We will be making use of the constructor to initialize the user object. When I say this is the initialization part, right? So user, nothing but the class name here. The parameters that we are considering is ID and name, which we have already given. So which is of the type, ID is of the type string, and name is the type string as well. So I'll just give you a string name. So within this one, what are all the things that we are initializing? ID as well as the name, right? So I'll just go with here this dot ID equals ID, and the second one here is this dot name equals name. So let me delete this one. Just give me a second here. So this is fine. Why we are getting, what error we are getting here? Oh yeah. So this is fine. So here, so let me come out of this one entirely. So initialization part is done. Let's go with the next class, nothing but split. So within the split, we had user and amount, if you remember, right? If you remember the UML diagram. So we are having the user as well as the amount, right? So I'll just write class quickly here, static class. Here I'll just go with split. So within this class, we are having the user who owns the money as well as amount that they owe, basically, right? So user who owns the money, which is of the type user itself. Here in this case, let me give user. This is fine. And amount is of the type double. We have already discussed this one. So here, let me go with double amount. So this is fine. So the next step is the initialization part here. We will be making use of the class name here in this case split. This is the constructor, right? So here, which consists of the parameter user, there is no comma here. So what is happening here? User as well as the amount, which is of the type double, basically. So I'll just keep amount here. This is fine. Within the initialization, what are we initializing here? Basically within the constructor, what are we initializing here? One is user, we mentioned here user as well as the amount, right? This dot user equals user, and this dot amount equals amount. So this one, this is fine. Let me come out of this one entirely. Static class expense. Yeah. So we will be going with the expense, right? So just give me a second here. We successfully completed the class split, right? Previously, now we are going with this one, class expense, basically a class to represent the expense. So I'll just give here in this case static class expense. This is fine. So what are the things that expense class contain? Basically paid by, amount, splits, as well as the expense type, right? So I'll just go with the paid by first. So this will be paid by, which is of the type user, nothing but user who paid the amount, right? So the next one is amount, so which is of the type basically double amount. So this is nothing but the total amount that is being paid, right? Or total amount that is paid. So next one is this one, splits, which will be within the list. Basically, I'll just go with split here. So here this will be splits, right? So this is fine. So this is how it's split among the users, right? So the next step here is type of the expense. So type of the expense here on this case, expense, not expense here, expense type, which is of the type expense type itself. So I'll just go with here expense type. This is fine. So this is nothing but the type of expense. So let me come out of this one entirely. So let's initialize the same thing within the constructor. So class name here, expense. Your what are all the things I need to include? Paid, amount, split, expense type. All the things we need to include here. Let me copy paste quickly. So this one, paste here. So the next one are double, amount, which is of the type double. Let me copy this one and paste it over here. Next one, this one, splits, which is of the type list. Basically, let me copy this one, paste it over here. The final one is expense type, which is of the type expense type. So I'll just copy this one and let me paste it over here, right? So we need to initialize the same things, right? So here I'll just make use of this keyword here, this dot. Why this is paid by is not showing here? I think wrong here. Paid by I have mentioned correctly itself, right here. User paid by double amount list. Let me write here. So what error we are getting here in this case? Invalid method declaration, return type required, return void. So basically we have just give me a second here. This is correct, I think. So let's see, let's write the code here in this case. Paid by. So the next one here is amount. I'll just go with amount here. Let's initialize this one to the amount. So this dot here, splits basically. So we have to get this one somewhere. We have done wrong. Just wait. Let's see what. So let's type this one. We don't have any type here. So let's go with this dot splits. Let me type this one instead. So the next one here is expense type here. Expense type. Let's initialize this one to expense type. So let me copy this one. Paste it over here. So this is fine. So let me come out of this one entirely. The class expense. So here so actually I think the bracket is the mistake here. So this one have to give here in this case. So yeah, bracket was the mistake. So we were getting there. So this is fine. Let's go with the next service class basically. Nothing but the expense service, right? So I'll just go with here static class expense service. So I'll just go with expense service here. This is fine. So within the expense service class, first what we need to do, we need to keep track of who owes how much, who owes whom to whom how much, right? Sorry, who owes whom how much. We need to keep track of who owes whom how much, right? So this one we have already discussed that one. We'll be making use of the hash map during the UML diagram, if you remember, right? So I'll be going with the map within the angle brackets. Let me give string again, map here. This will be string and double. So this is fine. The variable I'll just make use of here, this one, balance sheet. Let me go with balance sheet here. let's create the hash map here. Hash map. This is fine. So the next step here is we have to add a new expense. Means we have to add the new expense, right? This case, let's make use of the this one, or let's write the add expense method here. So I'll just go with void add expense here, expense type here, this one which is of type, and double amount. So here in this case user, so this capital, this has to be capital U, that is the reason this is showing error. So user, this is paid by basically, and also list, this one as list split. So here this will be splits in this case. So let me give this within the parenthesis. Let me cut this one, let me paste it over here, right? So this is fine. Splits, then leave space here. So within this method, what we will do, if it's an equal type, then we will calculate the equal amount and set it. So we are going with the equal, exact, as well as the percent, these three types, expense types, right? So first thing what we are doing here, within the expense service, we are writing the this one add expense method. So within the add expense method, if it is an equal type, then we have to calculate the equal amount and set it. So I'll just write the simple if condition here. If type equals expense type, this one here, expense type dot equal, right? So if it is equal, then what we will do, we will go with the equal division. Once let me go with the variable split amount here, split amount, basically this will be amount by splits dot size. So we are going with the equal this one division. So here there is no need of minus, so let me remove this one, this will be correct. Yeah, this is fine. Let me give the semicolon here. So next step, let's make use of the simple for loop here. We need individual split among the splits, right? So I'll just go with here split among the splits within the for loop. So within the for loop, what we'll be doing, we have to set the amount for the each split. Means I'll just write it in this way, split dot amount. Let me assign this one to the split amount. We have the split amount already, right? So this is fine. Let me come out of this one entirely, come out of the add expense method basically. Next, what we will be doing next here, so we have not come out of the this one add expense method, basically we have come out of the different for loop, right? So this is fine. Next step here is let's go with the for loop. Let's update the balances for the each user that is involved in the split. So we have to go with the for loop right here. So something, let me write this one quickly here, split here, individual split among the splits. This is fine. So within the for loop, we have to skip the payer. So I'll just go with the simple if condition here. So I'll just go with here split dot user dot id equals, so this will be paid by dot id. So then what we will do, we will continue. So let me give continue here. This is fine. So the next step here is, after writing the if condition, we have to update the borrower's balance. To update the borrower's balance, one who is borrowing, right? So to update the borrower's balance, what we have to do, so let me write this one very quickly. Let me go with the balance sheet here dot we'll be making use of put if absent, right? Put if absent. So within this function, let me give split dot user id. Then let's create the hash map here, new. So what happened here, hash map, new hash map. This is fine. So let me give the semicolon here. This is one thing. The next step here is did I miss anything here? No, right? So next step here is same thing, similar thing basically. Again, let me give balance sheet here. So instead of put, we'll be making use of the get operation here. This is fine. Split dot user dot id. Again, we'll be making use of put now. Put basically we need paid by as well as paid by basically. So that is the reason we'll be making use of put operation here. So here this will be paid by dot id here in this case, comma here we'll be making use of balance sheet again. So to get the value of user id, right? So we will go with balance sheet dot get of split user id we need to get. So it will be user dot id. So this is fine. Let's make use of the get or default here in this case, get or default, because we need paid by id basically paid by dot id here in this case. Let's initialize let's give the value initially 0.0 here, plus what we will do, this one, split dot amount. Let's go with split dot amount here in this case. So this one somewhere I missed something here, just give me a second here. So here I have misspelled amount, so I'll just amount. So in this case, one extra bracket was there, I have removed that one. Let me give this one, what do you call, semicolon here. So I hope this works. Still getting the error. Paid by, we have to give comma here, right? Paid by, so yeah, extra this one I have given here, parenthesis. So let me remove this one. Yeah, now the error is gone. So let me copy the same two lines, these two lines basically, same thing here in this case. The line number 68 and 69 I'm speaking of. Let me copy the same thing here. So we'll just come here in this case. So this is fine, I think. Let's see. So here next step what we need to do, so this one balance sheet dot put and balance sheet dot get, what we did here as 68 and 69 the line number, we are updating the borrower's balance. So after updating the borrower's balance here, we need to update the payer's record to subtract the same amount, right? So that also we need to do here in this case. So let me copy this one again and let me make the necessary changes here. So this one will be balance sheet dot put if absent remains same here in this case. So here in case of split, this one user id is there, right? So this one let me delete entirely. So this one, what this will be paid by dot id, as we are updating the payers record, right? Payers record to subtract the same amount. This will be paid by dot id, and we will be creating the hash map again, right? So we will be creating the hash map again. This is fine. So this balance sheet dot get, this one remains same, but this will be, we are going with the updating the payers record, right? So in this case, instead of split dot user or user dot id, this one will be, let me delete this one here, it will be paid by dot id here, this one. This is fine. And again this will be same, we'll be making use of put again. This will be instead of paid by, this will be split, basically split dot user dot id, right? Split dot user, I didn't give dot here, split dot user dot id, right? So again this balance sheet dot get, this remains same. Instead of split dot user dot id, we will be going with the split, this one paid by. So this one will be paid by dot id. This is fine. Instead of this one here, why we are getting error here in this case? Paid by balance sheet dot get here, balance sheet dot get here, split dot user, oh, dot get, oh, this is has to be small here. Yeah, now the error is gone. So I had given this a capital S, that's why we were getting the error basically. So here in this case, balance sheet dot get this one. What we are doing here in this case, so I forgot basically completely. Just give me a second here. Balance sheet dot get paid by dot id we have given, this is fine. Dot this remains same, get our default. So instead of within the pay this one get our default, instead of paid by, we'll be going with the split. You would have already guessed this one, right? This will be split dot user dot id here on this case. So comma this one value remains the same here on this case, 0 comma 0 plus what we are concatenating here on this case, this one split dot amount, right? This will be not so this is the addition operator basically, split dot amount, right? Instead of the addition operator, what will be making use of subtraction operator here, because previously we were updating the borrower's balance. Here in this case we are updating the payer's record to subtract the same amount, right? So we are making use of minus here in this case. So I hope this is clear. So this is it. Next I'll just come out of this one entirely. So let's go with the show balances. Let's go with the show balances method. So we have to show the balance, right? So I'll just give here show balances. Within this one we'll be going with the map type string here, comma, user within the angle brackets. So here this will be user map. So this is fine. So did I write this one outside? So let me cut this one. Let me write within this. This is fine. So within this method, what we will be doing, let's write the flag to check if any balance exists or not. So here in this case, this will be boolean is empty. Let me initialize this one to true. We are just making use of the flag to check if any balance exists, right? So that is the reason we are going with the is empty, which is of the type boolean. We have set this one initially to true. Next, let's iterate over the balance sheet to print the dues. We have to print the dues. That's what we are doing within the show balances method here, right? So let's over the balance sheet to print the dues here. Let's go with for loop here. We'll be going with the two for loops, right? So here, let me go with the user1 and user2. Basically, both are of the type string, right? So string here in this case, user1 within the balance sheet dot, let me make use of the key set here as we are going with the hash map here, key set. So this is fine. Next, more for loop here for user2, who is of the type string, basically user2 here, same thing, balance sheet dot key set here. This is fine. The same thing we are doing here. Within this one we don't have to make use of key set. I think we have to, before that one we have to get the value of the user one, right? So let me do one thing here. Within this one dot get, I'll give, we have to get the value of the user one basically, and again now I'll just give dot here. So what error we have here? Balance sheet dot get. Now error is gone, right? We are getting the value of user one, then key set. This is fine. So let me open the flower bracket here. So within the for loop, what we will do, I'll just go with the variable amount here. Amount here, let me give balance sheet. So we have to get the value of the user one and user two, right? So I'll just go with get user one, again get user two, the value of user two as well. So this is fine. So next, let's write the simple if condition here. If amount is greater than 0, then let's set the this one is empty here, is empty to false, right? So then we have to print who owes whom and how much, right? So we have to print that one. So I'll be making use of s out here. Let's give here user map. Let's get the value of the user one here in this case. user1. Let's get the name of the user1 basically, right? So let's concatenate. Let me give here os basically. Yes, os here. This is fine. Again, let's make use of the user map again here. In this case, we are printing who owes whom and how much money, right? So here in this case, again, I'll just make use of the user map. This time I'll try to get the user2 name here. In this case, user map, same thing, dot get here. In this case, what we are getting, the name of the user2, basically user2 dot name. This is fine. And let me give here this one. So did I do something wrong here? Oh, just give me a second here. No, right? Name. So this is fine. So let me leave space here so that this looks good here in this case. Right? This is fine. So this is fine as well. Let me make use of the column here. So let me do one thing here. Let's concatenate the this one. Let's go with the string format here. I'll just give here string dot format so that this look good. Basically, that's it. String format within the function. I'll just give here module 2f here. This one. Let's go with the amount as well here. This is fine. So this is it for this. So we have successfully printed. So we have successfully printed who owes whom and how much here in this case, right? I'll just come out of this one entirely. This method. So I'll just come out of this one here. So next what we will be doing, if all the balances are 0, if all balances are 0, then we have to, let's print something like no balance, something like that, right? I'll just go with no balance. You can give anything that is relevant. So I'll just go with simple if condition here, if is empty. Then let's print no balance. I'll just go with x out here. In this case, no balance. So this is fine. Let me come out of this one entirely. Next, let's go with the main method, right? Let's go with the main method. So let's consider the users, and we have to print the, we have to get some output, right, by giving the input. So let's go with the main method here. Let me print this one. I mean, let me type that quickly. So public static void main here in this case. This one string arguments. So within the main method, what we'll be doing first. So let's create the users quickly. So I'll just go with user u1. This one we are creating the new user, right? Here in this case, this will be equals new user. Within the strings, I'll just give u1 as well as name. I'll just give here in this case Bharadwaj. So we are going with certain users, right? I'll just go with the Bharadwaj 1 in this case. So this is of the type string. So let me mention this one in the type of within the double inverted comma. This is of the type string, right? So let me copy the same thing and make the necessary changes here. Let's go with some 3 or 4 users. Let's go with 4 users. Sorry. Again, one more. So let me consider this one as u2, u3, u4. This is fine. Here also I'll just give here in this case as well u2, u3, u4 here in this case, right? So this is fine. We are just creating 4 new users in this case, right? So here instead of Bharadwaj 1, let me go with Bharadwaj 2, 3, Bharadwaj 4 here, right? So this is fine. So the next step here is after creating the users, right? So we have to map. Why we have to map here? Because we are going with the we get the quick lookup basically based on the user ID, right? Based on the user ID, we can go with the map for the quick lookup, right? So here I'll just give map string, basically string comma user within the angle brackets here. This thing. So I'll just consider the variable name user map here in this case. I'll just assign this one to the new hash map. This is fine. The next step here is what shall we do here? User map dot put here, in this case u1 dot id comma u1. So let me copy the same thing here. Same thing we'll be doing for the other users as well, right? So here on this case, let me copy this one, paste, paste, paste. 4 users we have, right? User map will be making use of the u2 instead of u1 here. So this is fine. u3 here, u4 here, this is fine. So here also we will change. Let me come here, let me give u2, u3 and u4. This is fine. So we have successfully mapped for the quick lookup based on the user id or by user id, right? So next step is let's do one thing. Let's instantiate the expense service. So I'll just give here expense service in this case. Where is this expense service here? Again, expense service. We are just instantiating the expense service here. This will be new expense service. Expense service. This is fine. So the next step is let's go with the first expense here. Nothing but here on this case, just give me a second. So let's do one thing here. Bharadwaj 1 paid 120 for 4 people, right? So Bharadwaj 1 paid 120. If you can consider rupees anything, 120 rupees for 4 people here. So here in this case, let me go with this list here, not LSIT. List. This is fine. List mention split within the angle brackets here. So first split we are going with. So let me give here split 1 or splits 1. So this one let me give within the arrays as list. So I'll just go with arrays as list. Within this one, we have to split the placeholder, so which will be set internally, right? So I'll just go with here in this case new split. We have 4 users here. I'll just go with u1 comma 0. This is for the user 1. Let me give comma here in this case. Let me copy the same thing here. New split here in this case. We have 4 users, right? So let me copy this one. Let me paste it over. Again, let me paste it over here, and again let me paste it over here. Let me remove the comma here, right? So in this case, I'll just change this one to u2, u3 and u4. We have 4 users: user 1, user 2, user 3 and user 4, right? So here in this case, first expense, Bharadwaj 1 has paid 120 rupees for 4 people here in this case, right? So let me come out of this one. Let me give semicolon here. So let me come out of this one. Let's add the expense here. So I'll just go with expense service. Here add expense. Within the function will be going with expense type. We have to add the expense type, which is equal. Let's go with the equal. Expense type dot equal here in this case. So as I've said earlier itself, Bharadwaj paid 120, right? You can go with any value. So I'll just go with a 120 here in this case. So user 1, Bharadwaj 1 is nothing but the user 1 here in this case. So this will be split 1 basically, right? So now we have successfully added the expense. So the next step is let's add the second expense as well. So I'll just go with, let me take this one quickly as we have the idea now. We have successfully added the expense 1. Now we are going with the second expense here in this case. So this one will be list split. So this, I'll just name this one splits 2 instead of splits 1 here. This will be arrays as list here. So within this one, new, let me give here new split here, user 2 and user 3. Let me add user 2 and user 3 here in this case. So let me copy the same thing and make the necessary changes here. So let me copy this one and paste it over here. So this one will be user 2 and user 3. The next one will be user 3. This will be 0 itself. So let me remove the comma here, so to get rid of the error here. This is fine. So let me give semicolon here. So this is fine. So again, we have to add this expense as well, right? So let me copy this one and make the necessary changes here. Copy the same line. So this one and make the necessary changes here. This will be expense service dot add expense. This remains same. Expense type will be equal itself. Instead here amount, let me make changes in the amount. Let me give 70 or 80. So let me give 80 here in this case, right? So user 1, let me change this one to user 2. So this will be, instead of splits 1, this will be splits 2 basically, right? So let me come out of this one entirely. So finally we have to show all the final balances, right? So we have to show all the final balance here. So here this will be expense service. So we have to show balance. So we'll be making use of the show balances here, right? Show balances method here. Let's pass the user map within the show balances method. So this is it for the code. So let me format the code once here. So just give me a second here. So that code looks good here in this case, right? So this is fine. Anywhere error here? Let's check for the error apart from the strings here. Whatever we have written within the strings, this is fine. This is fine. We don't have any error, right? This is fine. This is fine. So here, out.example. This is fine. Missing package out.example. This is fine. This works. So yeah. So we have successfully written the code. So the output that we need to get here is basically Bharadwaj 1 paid 120 rupees for the 4 people. Means Bharadwaj 2, Bharadwaj 3, Bharadwaj 4. Each owe rupees 30 for him, right? Basically, Bharadwaj 1 paid 120 rupees for 4 people. Bharadwaj 2, Bharadwaj 3 and Bharadwaj 4 here in this case. Each owe him 30 rupees. And next, Bharadwaj 2. Bharadwaj 2 paid rupees 80. You can clearly see here the last one here. We have successfully created this one, splits 1 and splits 2, right? This one I'm speaking of. This one, second one, splits 2. I'm speaking of. Bharadwaj 2 paid 80 rupees for himself and this one, Bharadwaj 3. So Bharadwaj 3 owes Bharadwaj 2 40 rupees, right? Right. So final balances, basically it has to reflect the above calculations, right? So let's see. Let me hit the run button. I hope this works. Let's see. Let's wait for some time. So yeah, here let me enlarge this one. Just give me a second. So yeah, here you can clearly see Bharadwaj 2 owes Bharadwaj 1 30. Right, Bharadwaj 2 owes Bharadwaj 1 30. Bharadwaj 3 owes this one, Bharadwaj 1 30. This works correctly as well. Bharadwaj 3 here owes Bharadwaj 2 40. Right, Bharadwaj 3 here owes Bharadwaj 2 40. Right, so this is fine as well. And finally, Bharadwaj 4 here owes Bharadwaj 1 30. This works absolutely correct in this case, right? So I hope this is clear. This works absolutely correct. The code works, whatever the code that we have written works absolutely correct in this case. Bharadwaj 2 owes Bharadwaj 130, Bharadwaj 3 owes Bharadwaj 130 as well. Bharadwaj 3 again owes Bharadwaj 240 and Bharadwaj 4 owes Bharadwaj 130. So the code works absolutely correct in this case. Let me, yeah. So now what shall we do now? Let's discuss the complexities for the important methods that we have written, as well as finally after that let's discuss the design principles as well as the future scope, right? So this one, I hope whatever the code that we have written is completely clear. This works absolutely correct. The output that we need, we are getting the desired output according with the code, right? So the code works absolutely correct in this case. So let's discuss first, let's discuss the complexities. So here let's discuss the complexities for the two this one methods. So one is add expense and one is show balances. These are very important, right, here in this case. So for the add expense, the time complexity is big of n. Why it is big of n? Just look into your code. Why it is big of n? Because n is nothing but the number of users and the expense. So quite obviously the time complexity, overall time complexity would be big of n, right? So let's go with the space complexity here. The space complexity is big of u square. So in the worst case, all the users transact with all others once, right? So in the worst case, all the users can transact with the all other users once. So u is nothing but number of users in this case, right? U is nothing but number of users in this case. So the space complexity would be big of u square here in this case. So the time complexity would be big of n, and the space complexity would be big of u square for the add expense method. Next, let's discuss for the show balances method as well. For the show balances method, the time complexity would be big of u square. Why it is big of u square here on this case? Because we are iterating through the full balance matrix. You can check, you can just check. We have written two for loops. We are iterating through the full balance matrix. So the overall time complexity would be big of n square, and the overall space complexity would be big of 1, because we are not making use of any extra data, right? So we are not creating any extra data first time. We are just reading from balance sheet. We are just reading from the balance sheet, right? So overall space complexity would be big of 1 in this case. So for the add expense method, overall time complexity is big of n, and the space complexity would be big of u square. And for the show balances method, the time complexity would be big of u square, and the big of this one, space complexity, would be big of 1 in this case. Let's move on with the design principles here. Let's move on with the design principles here. So basically here, when I say design principles, we are going with the balance sheet optimization, right? So that is the reason we got big of 1, right? Big of 1, this one, space complexity within the show balances. So here in this case, we are going with the balance sheet optimization, means we are maintaining the net balances only, right? When I say we are maintaining the net balances only, we are just going with, we are just calculating who owes whom and how much. That's it. And we are avoiding the redundant calculations as well, or duplicate expense tracking. We are avoiding the redundant or duplicate expense tracking as well. So this is for balance sheet optimization. Let's discuss the extensibility now. Extensibility in the sense, we should be able to easily extend the support, right? So we are easily extending the support. We are able to easily extend the support as well. When I say we are able to extend, easily extend to support, so here we are going with the this one, percentage based expenses, also simplified debt settlement, right? For the extensibility. So this is it for the extensibility. Next, let's discuss about the modularity here on this case. So when I say modularity, we are going with user, split, expense, as well as the expense service, right? Here we are going with the clean separation of the responsibilities. Clean separation of the responsibility is, means we are going with the this one, user, which is separate. We are going with the split. We are going with expense, as well as we are going with the expense service, right? We are going with the expense service as well. Means in short, we can just call this one as clean separation of responsibility, right? User, split, expense, as well as the expense service. So let's move on with the fourth one here. We are able to support the multiple expense types as well. We have discussed this one, right? One is equal, another one is exact, nothing but exact, and another one is, the third one is percent, right? Here we are able to support the multiple expense types. One is equal, exact, and the last one is percent. These three, right? So this is fine. Let's move on with the final one, scalability, right? When I say scalability, this works well for the small medium groups. So this is the simple basically expense sharing system, right? Splitwise expense sharing system. Simple. This basically works well for the medium and the small groups, and it can also be scaled by lazy evolution or graph compression, right? So now we have successfully discussed about the design principles, right? One is balance sheet optimization, extensibility, modularity, and we are able to support the multiple types as well, along with the scalability. Let's come to the final one here, future scope. When I say future scope, I'm speaking of the real world additions, right? So we can just go with the group support here. Whenever I say we can go with the group support, it means users can belong to the groups, right? Users can belong to the groups here in this case. right? So this is fine. Next one is expense history. Next one is expense history. When I say expense history, we can add the transactions logs per user. So just try to do this one. Just try to do this one. Add this one within the code. You can just check it out by adding certain things in the code, right? So you'll not lose anything, so that you'll understand things better, right? So you can just add the transaction logs per user when I say expense history. Next, let's go with the debt simplification. When I say debt simplification, we can you can just make use of the greedy or DFS, right? You can just make use of the greedy or depth first search to minimize the number of transactions, right? So we can just minimize the number of transactions by making use of the greedy or the DFS approach. So this is for the depth simplification. This is fine. The final one is mobile APIs. When I say mobile APIs, we can just wrap our logic in the RESTful services if we are creating the API, right? So just wrap the logic within the RESTful services for mobile or web clients here. So this is for the mobile APIs, right? So this is about the futures code. So I hope this is completely clear. We have successfully discussed about the complexities as well as this one, design principles, and then futures code. We have successfully written the code as well, right? So I hope whatever the problem that we solved is completely clear, right? Whatever the code that we have written is completely clear, and I hope the solution is completely clear for the problem, right? So for now, this is it. Thanks for watching, guys.